smashed. Meanwhile, House Speaker Mike Johnson says that the House will act in the coming weeks to get more funding to Ukraine when Congress returns from its 2-week recess next week. Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene going after the Speaker again for committing to a vote on Ukraine aid while still no new security at the border. She writes this on X. If Speaker Johnson gives another $60 billion to the defense of Ukraine's border after he fully funded Biden's deadly open border, the cruel joke would be on the American people, and it won't be April Fool's. Joining me now is the Majority Leader of the House and Louisiana Congressman Steve Scalise. Congressman, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here.
Great to be with you.
Look, you've got this very, very narrow majority hanging on by a thread in the majority, and all of this infighting. Marjorie Taylor Greene going after the Speaker again. You just took down Kevin McCarthy. People are looking at this from afar and saying, what is wrong with this dysfunction going on in the Republican Party? How do you see it?
Well, the House has been taking care of its business, but we have a one-seat majority. And as you pointed out, razor thin. It got more razor thin when Mike Gallagher resigned just the other day. So, you know, that means every vote we take, our majority literally is just one. If more than one person says they want to go a different direction, then we're not going to be able to pass that bill. But we've done a lot of big things. Look at what we did with H.R. 2, our strong border security package that we passed. When the Senate could not come together to pass anything, they tried to pass an open borders bill. We passed a strong border security package with a very narrow, razor-thin majority, and every Democrat walking away. Keep in mind, not a single Democrat voted to secure America's border, and yet we still passed that bill through the House. So when it came time to come together, this House has continued to deliver for the American people. We need the White House, Maria. We need Donald Trump back in the White House, working to get our economy back on track, to secure our border, to get energy security again, and to stand up to the evil people around the world who want to do not just us harm, but our allies around the world.
Well, you're right. Okay, Leader Scalise. I mean, you passed H.R. 2. That should have been a blueprint for the Senate. That should have been the principles of actually putting those principles to work at the border. But it didn't, and they didn't take it up. They went and they started from scratch with their own Senate bill, which, of course, allowed $5,000 a day to come in. Should more have been done to stop Mike Gallagher from trying to get everybody back for taking Kevin McCarthy down? I mean, look, he's leaving at a time that forces you to just have no representation for his district in Wisconsin until November. You can't even do a special election. Should leadership, yourself, Mike Johnson, convince him somehow to leave earlier, leave immediately, so that you could have done a special election so that you would not have lost that vote?
Right, or just not leave at all, serve out the rest of the term. Or not leave at all, right, sure. And we had that conversation, too. And look, at the end of the day, you know, he's free to do whatever he chooses. He chose to do that. I wish he would not have. At the other end of the spectrum, we have a number of special elections coming up. For Kevin McCarthy's own seat in California, that's going to be a Republican win for us next month. We have to wait a few more weeks to get that special election through. But even with that one, we then have a 2 razor-thin majority. Right. You know, we go from 1 to 2. But the most important thing, Maria, is having a majority and not having the minority. Not having Hakeem Jeffries as the Speaker means Joe Biden's agenda doesn't move through the House. Joe Biden, when he laid out in his State of the Union that crazy far-left agenda, he wants to raise more taxes. He wants to lock in the Green New Deal. He wants to lock in open borders. None of that is going to happen under our House majority. Clearly, we've shown a different direction than Joe Biden, but the country's going to have to decide this in November because Joe Biden does not want to work with Republicans to solve these big problems. We've shown the country how to solve them, Maria. It's not complicated. Joe Biden refuses to sit down and even negotiate. Donald Trump needs to be the president of the United States if we want to get our country back on track.
Yeah, and all of these issues are going to be front and center when Trump speaks in Michigan and Wisconsin today. He's going to the swing states in an effort to win over those swing state voters. I want to get your take on the election. President Biden, meanwhile, is touting his administration's so-called economic gains. He did so during an Easter Monday interview. Watch this. Got to get your reaction.
When people are saying, you know, but Mr. President, I'm feeling, you know, my buck isn't going as far. What do you say to those folks about the economy and what's going on?
Well, I say we have the best economy in the world. We got to make it better. Jobs are up more than they've ever been. We're in a situation where the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years is maintained. I think the country's ready to come together in a way that I've never. I mean that sincerely. I'm truly optimistic.
Well, he's optimistic and he's sticking with it, Congressman.
Well, he's doubling down on divisiveness. You saw that in his State of the Union address, probably the most divisive State of the Union anyone's seen. He's living in a parallel universe. He can't even really come to celebrating Easter Sunday. He thinks the economy is doing great. Most hardworking families will tell you it's not because of Joe Biden's policies. And by the way, they're furious about this open southern border when they see thousands of people a day coming across, including people on the terrorist watch list. You're seeing Chinese nationals of military age coming across every single day now. And Joe Biden lets it happen. He could stop it on his own today with his own pen that he signs all those executive orders with, but he won't because he wants this to happen. And families are fed up with it. It's why President Trump's doing so well in those swing states you mentioned, like Michigan, like Wisconsin, of course, Pennsylvania and others.
Now, can Trump win even with all of these indictments and the fact that he may very well be in a trial before the election?
Well, people have seen through it. They see the politicization of government being used to weaponize government against the political opponents of Joe Biden. And they're disgusted by it, as they should be. This is not a third world nation. We shouldn't be operating like this when you see Letitia James and other prosecutors abusing their position to go after people, not to say, hey, we're going to put bad guys in jail, but to say, hey, I don't like that person, so I'm going to go put that person in jail, whether they did something wrong or not. That's not how America works, and people are sickened by it.
Yeah. Let me ask you before you go, Congressman, can you all do anything about these lax squatter rules? I mean, look what Ron DeSantis just did in Florida, making it a felony if you try to go steal somebody's home. KJP was asked about it the other day by Grady Trimble, and she had, not a lot to say about the fact that these squatter rules allow somebody to come in if your house is unoccupied and take over your house. And you got to go through this whole legal jeopardy to try to get your home back. Can Congress do anything about this?
Well, I know it's something that we're looking at. I applaud what Florida just did, and you see a few other states following behind it. In fact, a number of other states, because it's gotten so out of control. And you see illegals coming in, posting YouTube videos showing people how to do this. It's so brazen that, again, this is all part of Joe Biden's open border policy. It's an offshoot of it. It's not the only reason you've got this problem. But this is what happens when you have a lawless America where you have a party, the Democrat Party, who wants to defund the police, who doesn't respect rule of law. Let's get back to property ownership, the rights of the hardworking people who made this country great, who are sacrificing every day in this reality of Joe Biden's tough economy. They know how tough it is, even if Joe Biden doesn't.
Yeah. All right. Leader Scalise, thanks very much for spending the time in the middle of your Easter recess. We so appreciate your time this morning.